Testing, 1, 2. Check the mic. Thank you so much. Oh, wow. It's amazing. Just want to share some things I feel that God would want to impress upon us as I walk out the door, as it were. And really things that over the years we've kind of set things up in a certain way on Sunday mornings, and every church around the country does some kind of singing. Over the ages, churches have done some kind of singing. And I just want to kind of unpack and just chat about why we do what we do here. And it's all about our relationship with God. It's all about helping us in our relationship with God. This is what we're trying to do. We're trying to give a bunch of songs, a bit of a soundtrack, a playlist for our relationship with God. So my title I've chosen is A Playlist of Praise. And you get this idea. In my day, I used to have albums when I first started buying music where the artist chose the order that these songs would come across to you. And it was a really kind of creative thing. But now we just have playlists which kind of chuck random songs at you in any order. And actually, it's a thing that many of us have. And you can go for a walk and do a run and have a dinner party. You have this playlist driving around in the car that kind of runs in the background of whatever you're doing. And Spotify ends up choosing most of those songs in the end because they've kind of getting to know what you like. So you've got this playlist, and I'd like to kind of suggest it's great to have a playlist of praise music, of praise songs, of praise that runs throughout the background of our life, like a soundtrack to our walk with God and our journey to God with God. And what we're doing on Sunday mornings is trying to give you a few ideas of some songs that you could use. You might take these. I've used these ones and other ones for my journey. And actually, this playlist of praise is like the air that we breathe as Christians. Without worship, you suffocate as a Christian. You stifle him. And so I really just want to chat about that. So let's just pray, shall we? And it's our relationship with God as the heart of it. Let's just pray. God, we thank you so much that you come close to us and that we can know the closeness of God. And I pray, God, through these things that I'm going to speak, that you would come close during this time, that little phrases and kind of stuff I've gone through would help people in this room get closer to you, be encouraged in their walk with you, God. Come and be with us. Welcome you here, Jesus. Amen. 3 points. Number 1, know God. Number 2, know about God. Number 3, songs are great little vehicles to do that with. Okay? So, number 1, know God. You can know God. What a bizarre thing to say. 2 words, but just such weird truth wrapped up in that. You can know God. When I was 7 years old, I was like in Hastings, sitting on my mum's lap, I think I was, in this little tent, and somebody said, anyone who wants to become a Christian, just raise your hand now. And I'm like, yes, I'll become a Christian now. And as my little boy voice, and say, I want to follow you, God. And from that moment, I knew God. That ever since then, I've walked with him, and I've known him speaking to me over the years in my life, and kind of praying to him and orchestrating stuff in my life. I've known God like a friend, like a person you can walk with. I'd go up on the downs every now and then, and I'd talk to God, and I'd hear him speaking back to me. I'm not lonely anymore, ever. Even though I might feel lonely, he's there. He's like bigger, higher than the mountains that I face. Like God is bigger than the stuff I'll come up against. We can know God. And many of us in this room have had that moment where, across an alpha table or, in the bath somewhere or having a walk where we've said, or the 6th of June, 1988, did you hear? Was it 88? 88, 6th of June, 1988. Arif goes, yeah, that's when I had a friendship with God starting. And so for many of us here in this room, we've got this friendship with God, and there's something incredibly special as we come together and acknowledge that, really. God is amongst us. Just for yourself, think about when that was that you made that moment. You got close to God for the first time. He can be there and can walk your journey for the rest of life. And let's just have a little look at one of the verses in the Bible that we've kind of taken the series title from. And it's in Deuteronomy 6, and it says this: "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul and all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be in your hearts." And sometimes we can read the Bible like we're rushing around an art gallery. It's like we kind of these beautiful verses, like these beautiful pictures, and actually we can not really look at them properly. So it's like, I'm looking at Monet with the water lilies thing, and that's great. Done Monet over here. I'm going to go to Van Gogh and the sunflowers, that big bright yellow thing. Yep, done that one. Okay, over here, the big, that big one with all the dots in it on the beach. Yep, okay, that one. Yep. Done that. I've done the art gallery. I have finished. And actually, we can do that with the Bible and just kind of whip through these verses. And one of my favorite preachers, Martin Lloyd-Jones, says, take time to just look upon these things. So I'd encourage you, and I encourage myself, when you read the Bible, don't kind of rush on in some of these passages. Look closely. I'm going to take 4 words here. The Lord our God, to start with. So the first word, the. We'll breeze over that quite quickly. It's just a contrast to not a God, not part of a whole bunch of other gods. He is the God, the one. And we're just going to land on this word Lord. It's written in capital letters in the actual kind of, in the Bible. And it kind of, if children in my class use capital letters in their sentences, middle of the sentence, that's a random B in the middle of the sentence. Why have you done that? That's not how we do writing. You're not supposed to put words in capitals unless you're wanting to kind of communicate something, like you're shouting or something. And particularly comes over in a text, doesn't it? So my mum, when she's just learning to text, will, kind of send this message, hi, Reuben, hope you're doing okay. But it's in capitals because she's just getting the grips of it. So you've got this kind of, hi, Reuben, how are you doing? Kind of effect of this text because it's in capitals, okay? So what does it mean that we've got the word Lord in capitals? And so as I've sort of read around it a little bit, we've got this sense of it being translated as a different word from the word Lord in the small letters. So it relates back to the Hebrew word Yahweh, really containing this meaning to be. And the other kind of link to it is where Moses talks to God and say, who should I say sent me? And God says, I am who I am. And this name of God as I am has got this massive kind of boom, resonance through the Bible. So when Jesus says it in the New Testament, I am the bread of life, I am the way, the truth, and the life, I am really kind of relates to this I amness of God. And it has this sense of God being present everywhere. He is constantly the I am. In our moments today in Burgess Hill here, but in the same way, he is I am, just ever present. He's there in America, in whatever town you can think of there, or in India, or in Africa, or in Australia, or on the space station, or on the moon, or on the far reaches of the universe. God is I am everywhere. Okay, it's just pretty tricky to get our heads around that. And it also works for every time period. We're studying Anglo-Saxons at school, and these kind of Sutton Hoo, where they dug up all these masks and stuff like that. And 1,500 years ago, these Anglo-Saxon dudes were around doing their thing, and God is there as they do their thing, and these Christian missionaries come over. I am. And through every age of all that we've seen, the change of Victorianism and the 1066 Battle of Hastings, the Enlightenment, Renaissance, and world wars and so on, God is ever present in every place. He is, I am. And there's moments when I can physically be somewhere and still not be there, and that's probably the same with you, that you're in a pub and you're having a drink with someone and there's a football match going on and the TV in the background and I'm not there, okay, I'm somewhere else, I'm not there. God is ever present everywhere. It's like this mystery. It's like, I've heard it said, like a table with a tablecloth over it, and the best we see is like we lift up the corner of the tablecloth and we see part of the leg of the table, and we knock it and it's made of wood or something, and yep, that's what God's like. That's what God has revealed, this bit of himself to us, and our minds understand, yep, okay, so it's like a table leg. Whereas actually 3/4 is still shrouded in mystery. So God is mysterious, and we can know God. What an outrageous thing to say. The God of every generation and everywhere around the world, ever present, eternal, immortal, we can know God. So Psalm 139 says this, O Lord, you have searched me and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise, you know me. God knows us and invites us to know him. So this morning, the kind of application of that is you can know God. You can know him if you want it. I know it's a journey and different stages of it, but you can know God. And whatever your walk is, I'd encourage you to, come on. Oh man, Reuben, don't be so silly. Get close to God. Get close to God. Know God. So the next kind of part is this thing of knowing about God. Because actually, we have kind of times where we can get to know him almost personally, one-to-one, but we can actually know about him, which helps us get to know him. So I've been getting to know Melinda over the last kind of little bit of time, 9 months or so. And we're like autumn term, we're kind of, would you like to go for a walk around the lake? Would you like to have a drink? Would you like to go for a coffee? Would you like to, we'll go for a meal somewhere? And all the time you're kind of talking, you're doing talk and talk and talk, just getting to know each other and finding out, what's your top film and what songs do you like and what's your church and job and histories and so on. And it's like, you're getting to know the closeness of someone. You're just getting to know them. But then something totally different happens when you go to their family do. Okay, so yesterday we were at this thing with our cousins and aunts and uncles and all the whole thing. And you get to kind of see each other in a totally different light. So she's seeing me making conversations with all these random people. And she's kind of doing her cousin's thing and they're reminiscing about being in plays when they're 7 years old and all this kind of stuff. And you actually get to know about them from these other contexts. And in the same way, we can actually get to know about God by seeing what he's doing in other people's lives, by seeing what God's doing around the world, actually. And obviously, one of the key ways we get to know about God is through the Bible, as we see him interacting with all these other people through history. And so we've got this, following on from the verses we just read, we have this, Deuteronomy 6:7-9 says this, impress these things upon your children. Talk to them when you're sitting at home, when you walk along the road, when you lie down, when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your forehead like an action and mind thoughts. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. And it's like the whole kind of impression I get from this, the verbs that are used here, back to my teaching mode, impress, talk, walk, tie, bind, write. What does that kind of get across to you? Sort of get them in you, like write them, bind them, tie them, walk with them. Get these truths of God, get these truths about God in you. And I found songs to be a really powerful way of doing that, actually. Great truths about God can come across through songs. So, when I was working in a sausage factory when I was 16 years old, not 6 years old, 16, that's kind of not allowed. So I was 16 years old, and I'm working in this sausage factory, and I find I'm like really bored for 8 hours a day packing these sausages, 8 hours, and I've talked to everyone I could talk to, and I've get through the day. I find that I know the entirety of Bruce Springsteen's 1975 album, Born to Run. I know all the lyrics from this album. So I'm standing there with my sausages, packing them, going, in the day we sweated it out on the streets of a runaway American dream. At night we ride through the mansions of glory in suicide machines, sprung from cages on Highway 9, chrome wheel, fuel injected, and stepping out over the line, etc. Okay? So that's the song Born to Run. By Bruce Springsteen, and it's filled with all this glorious rock and roll imagery, chrome wheel, fuel injected, and stepping out over the line. Okay, so all of that is going on within that song, and I'm finding I know all these words. It's quite entertaining, but I go home and my relationship with God is developing, and I find some guys at church are speaking about hymns and songs that we're singing there. And I go home and I learn a couple of hymns, thinking there's some better stuff I could probably put in me for tomorrow, and when I pack the sausages again. So I learned a couple of hymns. I learned And Can It Be, and I learned Crowning with Many Crowns. So the next day I'm like, and can it be that I should gain an interest in the Saviour's blood? Died he for me who caused his pain, for me who him to death pursued. And it was good content. There was some good stuff going on. Thank you, Steve. There was some good, back on this one. And there was some good content that was actually going on within those songs. And it was probably doing me good, and probably a bit better than, I'll leave that there actually, a bit better than the Born to Run type lyrics. And I've had two parallel journeys, kept on loving those songs and enjoying them, playing them down the pubs regularly and stuff. But actually these other songs, these content church God songs, just filled me with loads of good truth. I got to know about God from these things. And I found that I was impressing them on myself. I was talking about, writing them, binding them, so that when I did the marathon with a bunch of guys a month ago, I'm getting to 20 miles. It's again really gritty. It's a really dull bit of road. I'm really struggling. I'm like, okay, well, what can I recite? Okay, go, and can it be that I, as I'm doing the marathon? Because this stuff is kind of in me, sort of impressed in my guts kind of thing. I've got this song in me. And these songs can be great little vehicles for this content. And we've got this getting to know about God through songs. And at the same time, we actually get to know God through these things. And when I've had the privilege, and, just some of the highlights of my life have been in this room, leading worship. And I love it when we get a song, that I've tended to do this quite a lot, where you get a song of content that has loads of truth in it, that you follow by another song that's a little bit lighter, that's got a kind of response to it. Have you put up the clip art screen? And I felt God sort of land with me this picture of vehicles and songs as vehicles. You'll notice the primary school teacher ness of this again, coming into the game. But it's kind of helpful. We've got a kind of dumper truck. I think of And Can It Be like this dumper truck, really, this kind of juggernaut of heavy weights coming at you. It's coming at you with all 5 verses, trucking on through, and it's coming for you. And it's got this content in it. There's a weight to it, and it's a great little vehicle of expressing a relationship with God. And then, often I'll use, and can it be? And then you do a kind of great response song to that, like lift up his name with the sound of singing. That one. That you get, it's actually quite light, but it expresses kind of just this outward praise. So it's like the juggernaut of the hymn thing is like all weighty and content. And Matt Redman talks about some songs being like breathe in songs. So we're kind of breathing in about God. And then this kind of breathe out of, so lift up his name with a sound of singing. So we've got songs that do different jobs. And they're really helpful little vehicles that over the years I've used. And I've found them great fun, okay? We did a live a few weeks back and just getting Daryl on the guitar there. We're having a lot of fun enjoying this vehicle of Alive. My soul is alive with worship. And we're trying to, give these songs to all of us to help a playlist of praise in our lives. And part of what we do here is trying to put them in little vehicles that help us to worship and actually that get somewhere. Actually, because this content is in these vehicles, they kind of move all over the country and all around the world, actually. So we can see something like 10,000 Reasons, I always think is a bit like one of these kind of people carry a very versatile vehicle, a VW Touran. You can have 7 seats or you can just drive it on your own and it's not too big. It's a very versatile little song, 10,000 Reasons. And, you can sing it in a little village church. You can sing it in a small group. You can sing it in a stadium. It's a great vehicle for connecting and communicating. What truth does 10,000 Reasons kind of put across? Is this sort of thing of gratefulness, 10,000 reasons for my heart to find gratefulness to God in this little vehicle. And I found a really funny experience with the song Oceans by Hillsong's song Oceans. And I was teaching, having a friend at school who's not a Christian sort of came up to me and said, there's this great song that I've come across, I'm doing with my choir, and it's called Oceans by Hilltop United. And I'm like, Hillsongs? Yeah, that's wherever. He's part of your lot. So she's kind of teaching this song to her choir. But because of the kind of the packaging, the production, the album, the streamlinedness of this great song, I liken it to this nice little sports car, this song, of a song. And it's as a vehicle, it's got to her world, however it's done that. And it's kind of communicating this truth about God in this vehicle. And you get this other song, Here Is Love, Welsh revival. Here is love, vast as the ocean, loving kindness as a flood. When the Prince of Life, our ransom, shed for us his precious blood. And we get this beautiful tune and merged with the lyrics that expresses something about the cross. And I kind of think of that like a camper van, like a beautiful kind of camper van. It's just, nice, classy. It's not too heavy, but the rest of it. So there's this vehicles and it was used in the Welsh revival. And the danger is that every generation has got the temptation to kind of glorify the vehicle and to kind of spend too much time actually polishing the edges and all the rest of it. The vehicle doesn't actually get out of the garage sometimes. It's the relationship with God, the fact that you can know God and you can know about God, and these songs help you. Don't get caught up in what kind of format or packaging they're in, the style of them and so on. And so for my grandma, she was like second or third generation of the Welsh revival. So all these people, becoming Christians, and their relationship with God is kind of opened up for the first time, and they're singing these songs. But by the second or third generation, she's kind of very focused on, the singing. And she used to talk about, the singing, the valleys, hearing the voices in the valleys. And, this male voice choir. And it was just beautiful singing. Didn't know what they were singing about, but it was beautiful. And it was like the content, the thing that's actually at the heart of it had kind of got lost. And for our generation, we need to consider that we keep the thing at the middle of it. It's the vehicle. We're going to enjoy these vehicles, But we need to make sure it's our relationship with God is the thing that is at the heart of it, using these songs to help us. Cool. So here we go. So I found over the last few years songs to be really significant. And this is my playlist of praise. So 5 years ago, my marriage ended, and I found two things over the next years. All this God stuff, it turned out to be true, and church was all that I believed it to be. That to stand here now is to stand on the shoulders of 60 people, and I can see all of you around the room now that I've had the privilege to sing songs with, but you have given me cars and phones and places to live and houses to have holidays in. You've helped me with my children in all kinds of ways. And even if you don't know me that well, there's moments where you've sung for me probably, that I've been here at church when I couldn't sing. It was too painful. But you have sung songs on my behalf, as it were. And I'm sitting there just listening to you, getting into the words and letting this stuff get into my heart, this content by these vehicles of songs. And I want to say thank you. It's been an amazing thing. Bill Hybels says there's nothing quite like the local church when it's working well. Its power is breathtaking. Whatever the capacity for human suffering, the local church has greater capacity for healing and restoration. And that's been true here. So what's happening at King's Church, Mid-Sussex, is all of that stuff. And my story is just one story of many that are unfolding in this room and across this church. There's many other people who I can see are walking in the most unexpected, difficult circumstances and finding God in it. And sometimes they can sing, and sometimes they can't. But we're carrying each other. And so often you have sung for me, and you have carried me. A weekend that everything happened for me. It was a Friday night, and I was leading worship on the Sunday morning, and I kind of couldn't have really time to process it or change much, and so I went ahead and led worship, and no one else in the room knew, just me and my friend Nigel, good enough, and I stood up on this stage just over there and sang this. When peace is like a river attendeth my way, when sorrow like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, you have taught me to say, it is well with my soul. And it was a kind of quite an ironic thing to sing in such a place, really. It's well with my soul. And yet I felt those words were true. And the little phrase, whatever my lot, you have taught me to say, just kind of had this historic, again, resonance that through leading worship, through doing this thing, being involved in singing songs on Sunday morning, God has taught me to say, it's well with my soul through these songs. These songs have been part of my journey. So when the very most difficult times hit, I knew what to sing. I had this stuff in me that God taught me to say, it's well with my soul. This, a few months later, I felt like the worst person in the world, and just incredible, awareness of things have gone terribly wrong, and think things are very difficult. And I felt, the responsibility of it on myself. And I stood at the back over there while my friend Sarah led this song. You know how often I've failed. all that I can't undo, stains I've no means to erase. How can I stand before you? Christ takes my sin on his shoulders, steadfast to Calvary's hill, leaving my sin in the grave. He rises the conquering sun. Such amazing grace. And through the truth of that song, I found God's forgiveness in that moment. And so these songs are little gems, little vehicles that help us express our relationship with God. When I moved out of the family home, the week after, we sang, pardon for sin and a peace that endureth, thine own dear presence to cheer and to guide, strength for today and bright hope for tomorrow, blessings are mine with 10,000 beside. Great is thy faithfulness, great is thy faithfulness. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. All I have needed, thy hand hath provided. Great is thy faithfulness, Lord, unto me. And was carried again. I don't know if I actually sang it or heard you singing it. But those songs, and that song particularly, the way it speaks of God's provision, whatever you're going through, great is thy faithfulness. And though I didn't feel it particularly, I almost didn't believe it, I sang myself into it. When I was driving to Crawley regularly, changing job, massive change of career moment, in this little rusty Corsa, and I remember listening to Oceans as this friend at school had kind of delivered. I didn't actually know it, and this friend at school kind of said, you should check out this song Oceans, it'd be good for you. Okay, so it was sitting in the car time and time again listening to you call me out upon the waters, the great unknown, where feet may fail, and there I find you in the mystery, in oceans deep, my faith will stand, and I will call upon your name, and keep my eyes above the waves. When oceans rise, my soul will rest in your embrace, for I am yours, you are mine. Know God, know about God. These songs, great little ways of helping us. Let's stand, shall we?